Dear students, good morning. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, 6th February 2018. The first article for more equity, it is about long-term capital gains tax. This budget has reintroduced it. Long-term means any stock which is holding greater than 1 year. Capital gains, it means income gain on equity and mutual funds. Tax, it is 10%. So this budget has reintroduced it for the reason that it wants to bring in parity across the asset classes, a level playing field across the asset classes. But what are the consequences, negative consequences of it? The first thing is the investors are going to lose confidence on India as an investment destination, because frequent changes in tax policies may not be conducive for investment climate. Added to that, India also imposes securities transaction tax. The second thing is, now the long-term shareholding and short-term shareholding, if you compare, the long-term shareholding will not be very much advantage to the investor. So it leads to unnecessary speculation in the stock markets. The third aspect, the present long-term capital gains tax is not indexed to inflation. So unless it is indexed, we can't see proper gains out of the investment. So that's why a minimal reform or minimal change in this long-term capital gains tax in the form of indexing it to inflation is necessary. That's what author says over here. The anatomy of another riot. So why the communal riots are growing in India? So the communal riots have become a regular feature. So what has changed in the politics and the functioning of our media, civil society, etc.? So one is the fractured narrative. It means what is causing a communal riot and how is it being narrated on the national dais. These are entirely different from each other. So there is a distortion in the media, civil society actions, and also to an extent government narrative. So the major problem is the majoritarianism is projecting itself as a patriotism, and communalism is spreading under the cover of patriotism. This has to be corrected. And second is, the bureaucracy need to be effective with regard to arrest of communalism or spread of communal violence. So a proactive bureaucracy is necessary. But communalization of the civil services across North India, this is the major problem. Be careful, communalization of civil services was said to be the biggest danger that can affect the integrity of the country, according to Prime Minister Nehru. And third, there are no proper legal instrument and the justice delivery systems for the victims of communal violence. So these have to be corrected. The next is quoting the rankings. Before going into the article, remember these things. The investor and state disputes in India. So bilateral investment treaties India wants to amend to rectify the weaknesses of resolving state investor disputes. So let us see this. The BITs or model BIT which India has brought in, what it stated is, any investor first has to exhaust his legal options in India. Then only he has to explore the international arbitration. And international investors, they are not ready for this. The major reason they cited is the enforcement of contracts is very weak in India. So in this context, commercial codes bill has converted into an act. So let us understand what is meant by this enforcement of contracts. Let's take two individuals got into an agreement and there was a dispute related to this agreement. There has to be a state mechanism to enforce the contract and to see the legality of the contract. So enforcement of contracts is essential for strong business environment and also for rule of law. In India, this is what is missing. So in business of doing index, which was given by the World Bank, enforcement of contracts is an important component and India has a very dismal performance. The reason is this. The average litigation period for India is around 4 years. It means we can't find any redressal in the courts below these 4 years. And second aspect to it, the cost of litigation. So the value of the contract, out of it close to one third, around 31%, will be eroded as cost of litigation. So unless this system is reformed, India will not be a proper climate for investments. So in this context, the special commercial courts need to be established at the district level, and commercial divisions, commercial benches need to be established at high courts. For that an act was passed. So though the parliament has passed the act, the responsibility to implement the act belongs to the state governments. But in India, the state governments are not ready to implement that because of the paucity of resources. So what the state governments are doing, they are just giving back this responsibility to the principal sessions judge or district judge. And these people are already overburdened. And second aspect, if we have to improve, special courts have to be created, proper infrastructure has to be provided. Judges who are manning these courts shall be trained in these commercial aspects, and separate appellate mechanism has to be provided, and also proper data generation out of the dispute resolution have to be displayed for the people. It means there has to be total transparency in their working. Then only the mechanism for enforcement of contracts will be effective in India, and India can become a better investment destination. The next is making health insurance work. This is about National Health Protection Scheme, which is brought in by the government. So, NHPS, it is replacing the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. Difference are, previously it used to give a coverage up to 30,000 rupees. Now the coverage is raised to 5 lakh rupees, which is a significant improvement. But however, whatever the weaknesses of RSBY are still continuing in National Health Protection Scheme. Remember this statement, any curative care, it has to be built on the base of the preventive care. So the preventive care and promotive care has to be strong. Then the expenditure incurred on the curative care comes down. And if we are going by insurance mechanisms, which is majorly an aspect of the curative care, the primary focus has to be on the preventive care. So the NHPS also has neglected on this primary care aspect. And the most important problem in the curative care is out-of-pocket expenditure. So even today, the out-of-pocket expenditure is very high for the patient. The reason is the outpatient care and the medicines, they constitute the lot of out-of-pocket expenditure. So under the NHPS, it covers only inpatient care, hospitalization cost not out of it. And third is, any insurance-based delivery, if it has to be successful, regulation of costs and also quality standards is important. If you take United States, Medicaid, Mediclaim are the insurance schemes for the poor over there, which are supported by the government. There is a proper regulation of the costs under the Medicaid and Mediclaim. But in India, there is no proper regulation of these costs and quality standards. If not, the costs of the treatment are bound to escalate in the country. So the doctors may prescribe unnecessary diagnostic and treatment procedures. And above all, if the primary health centers have to become a destination of the centers, and if they have to win the contracts of the government, the PHCs need to be sufficiently staffed and provided with quality diagnostics over there. So these, unless are done, the NHPS is going to suffer the same weaknesses of RSBY. Next is, if primary health care has to be strengthened, we also need to see a wider concept of the health. That is, health have to be seen from the nutrition, sanitation, and from sanitation perspective. So this holistic concept has to be strengthened. So that's why the NHPS has to see health as well-being and has to promote nutrition, sanitation, and also has to ensure holistic care to the individual. That is, article's essence is. The next is, coming to the main page. When two adults marry, none should interfere. So this is about the ongoing Cup Panchayats. So normally the orders of the Cup Panchayats, these are being denoted as honor killings. So this honor has no honor in this particular judgment. So the Cup Panchayats, another dimension is this. They are bringing in an wrong name to the Panchayats itself. So that's why there is a notion that there is a demand that the Panchayats, the word shall be used only for the legally denominated Panchayats, not for the illegally functioning Panchayat systems. Why the cups are still continuing today? They have got a lot of would-be's, cultural acceptance, and they're also involved with various patronage networks at the village level. So that's why these are continuing. So the Supreme Court has clearly stated that the choice of marriage is a decision of the adult members or else consent of the two adults, and no one has a right to interfere in that. Maldives government declares emergency. So yesterday we saw that Maldives Supreme Court has given a judgment that all the political prisoners have to be released and the Nasheed has to be allowed back into the country, and Majlis, the parliament of Maldives, need to be convened for its meeting. And this did not go well with the Abdullah Amin, the president, and now emergency has been imposed and Supreme Court is shut down. And the next is, in the last page I gave you the notes and it will be available to you at lawx.in/civilsprep. Thank you very much. All the best.